Hello, I'm Mantastic'c and Fantastic, and today I want to talk about version 19.8 that has just gone live in North America. So, as with all updates, there's various quality of life improvements, new evolutions and upgrades, and I'm going to give you a quick rundown of all the various things that have gone live since last night. So, the first things first is that players will be able to move orbs while waiting after clearing 8-player PvP dungeons. I guess instead of just awkwardly staring at your screen and watching the timer tick down for other people to finish, you can faffle around of orbs, but it doesn't actually do anything for you aside from faffling, so I guess that's cool. Next is Dungeon Rematch feature has been implemented. So, one of the more tedious things about pad is that there are many clicks that you don't have to make. Like, there's a lot of redundant clicking, I feel, and if you can save some clicks, you save some time, you save some sanity. And we have an ability to actually have an instantaneous rematch in solo mode when certain conditions are met. You must have your own monsters set as a helper. So if you want to play, like, say, Royal Oak, you got to have 2 Royal Oaks in your box. So I guess this is where duplicates may become in handy. Basically, it lets you, like, enter the dungeon, beat the dungeon, and then replay it immediately afterwards. That is cool. You also can have this function if your helper is automatically selected in a fixed team dungeon, or there's no helper selected. So basically, you don't bring a friend leader, which is kind of weird, or any leader as a friend, so I think this is just not a good idea. I think for fixed team dungeons, this is nice. You can definitely utilize this in the 8-player PvP. You can just play, finish, and play again with much less clicking. It's cool. I wish you could use friend leaders, like just let you use that friend leader again and again, because like having, say, like 2 Royal Oaks, or 2 Seawolves, or 2 Daytonas, or 2 of whatever may not necessarily be available to put it as your own helper, so it's a step in the right direction, but I feel like it's not a big enough step. So yeah, as they mentioned, like solo play dungeons, 8-player PvP, and 3-player multiplayer auto match only. So like there are some ways you can possibly do it. Skill effects will be omitted in certain situations. So a lot of active skills have multiple different benefits. So from this like little video that Gung-Ho gave us, they're showing that Valkyrie's Seal, with her active, she's able to clear multiple different effects. She fully heals and clears bind statuses, she removes orb blocks, and then changes hearts and hazards into the respective effect. So basically, the idea is if an effect is not going to be utilized, the animation is completely skipped. There was a point in time in the past where like ranking dungeons was super paranoid about like you must minimize active skill animations in order to go faster. Well, this is a way to kind of do that, because if you didn't need, say, the board unlock or whatever it was, it skips that animation so things go a little faster. I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference outside of ranking dungeon situations, but hey, it's a little improvement overall. Next, we're going to be able to select 8 latent modules. We have the technology. The future is now. We can actually fuse 8 at a time instead of 5. Like, it always baffled my mind how it's like most cards have 6 latent slots. Well, all cards have 6 latent slots by default, and you only can fuse 5 at a time. So those SDRs were just never going to happen. You'd have all these excessive extra clickings. Now we can do it in one go. This makes me excited overall. You have to obviously go through the extra enhancements latent awakening screen. So like you have to press a certain button, but who cares? It's a certain button I'm going to be willing to press all the time. I press that button anyways. So this is a great quality of life improvement. Next is a new awoken skill has been added. So if you remember from my Christmas Rare Machine article, I mentioned how this super enhanced matching, or some people might even call it like blob style awakening. But basically the idea is when you match 12 or more orbs of the same color as the owning card, that particular card will gain 12 times personal damage. Outrageously high personal damage multiplier. If they had even any other kind of personal damage multiplier beforehand, they're going to deal spectacular amounts of damage when you blob. And this blobbing works from 12 or more. It could be a full board swipe. It could be exactly 12, of course, but it could be a full board swipe, which is going to play a big part with the new combo orb bonus. So, the combo orb awakening has been buffed to now have maximum of 8 on the board at any given time, so that's really nice to have. More combo orbs, more happiness. And then you get more combos added, maximum 4 combos instead of maximum 2, when you actually trigger the combo orbs effect. And to trigger combo orbs now, all you need to do is match 10 or more orbs of the same color. Before it was 10 to 12. Now it's 10 or more. You no longer have to count to make sure you got exactly 10 to 12. This also means that swiping a full monocolor board gives you bonus combos. And if you're able to have lots of combo Orb Awakenings on the team, that single swipe is going to be pumped up to significantly more combos. The combo orbs that appear on the board are going to be able to be swiped away as well. So point of the matter is, it gives you a possible chance of actually swiping a full monocolor board and getting huge combos. Where else can this be applicable? Well, right now for endgame style content, Nautilus teams tend to utilize combo orbs because Zila hats just come with them naturally. And Nautilus doesn't give as many bonus combos as, say, Royal Oak. So hitting 10 combos plus your row can be sometimes a little difficult. So now, what I usually do when I play is I match my row and then 4 sticking up off of it. So I trigger Combo Orb. With this bonus buff here, it's going to be a little easier. Like, it's a bit more forgiving. You could have definitely more of these, like, say, if you have Combo Orb Awakenings across your team, the effect is going to be even stronger because more Combo Orbs fall down. It just makes it easier to hit that 10 combo more consistently for cards that actually need to use it for their damage output. In addition to Combo Orbs being buffed, the Super Bonus Attack or Super Follow-Up Attack has been also buffed to give 3.5 times personal damage for the owning card. Like, that's great and all, but, like, there's not many instances where we can truly leverage it, because having 9 hard orbs on the board is pretty awkward when you think about it, because hard orbs don't contribute damage, and they're taking up a big spot on the screen. And we don't need the auto follow attack component in most cases when you really think about it. Most of the times you have enough auto follow attack, or just auto follow attack in general, to actually execute the spawn. Maybe you can make some edge cases of, say, like you're doing, like, say, Nautilus and Christmas Manoa in MD1, and Saria needs 5.4 million auto follow attack. If you make a super follow attack with your regular Nautilus, because you're paired of Christmas Manoa, you only have 5 million. Now you have 6 million, so therefore you pass Saria's puzzle. I can think of that as a possibly useful situation, but I feel like it's still quite niche overall. In addition to this, we have more information in game. Hooray! Instead of saying greatly increases, they actually tell you it's 5 times for the 10 combo and 4.5 times for the 5 attribute awakening. Like, that's great. We need more of this information in game, because stop telling me it says vastly reduced damage taken or slightly reduced damage taken, slightly increased damage put out. Like, we need numbers. Like, I don't think it's hard to put numbers in the game, but at least it's a step in the right direction. In addition to this, we're now able to have communication dialogue skipped or not skipped. And I think this can be meaningful because we can now have the confirm continue for spending a magic stone actually having are you sure? Because if I'm not mistaken, Gung-Ho has been for the many years trying to, like, just gouge players of their magic stones. You misclick and you suddenly continued or stoned a dungeon when you didn't want to. Feels kind of bad. I went and turned on my continue confirmation on, so this should make it so I don't accidentally continue when I didn't actually want to, because the default setting is off, which I think is a little predatory if that's the case, because if you think about it, you don't really want a stone to continue a dungeon. You should have more pop-up windows to say, are you sure you want to quit? Or are you sure you want to stone? Because quitting takes lots of clicks, but stoning takes, like, none. So I think this is a good thing that should be implemented, and I think it should be on by default, but whatever. And then you also have a confirmation of, do you really want to quit? By default, it's turned on. I think it's nice to have this possibly, like sometimes, like, if you have, like, confirmation to stone on, you're much less likely to accidentally click it. So I think leaving this on of saying, do you really want to quit, not be a terrible thing. But again, a lot of stuff we do play at least has no continue clause anyway, so these two technically don't apply in those instances. And then there's just been some general improvements, and I'm surprised they didn't make this more notable, because you can now set multiple cards as your favorite. And this is a big deal, because if you go to change order, useful, set favorites button, you're able to select multiple cards at a time to make them favorited. This is great because I know many players have had instances where their whole monster box gets unfavorited, and it's just a terribly tedious task of refavoriting every single card. This will do it much faster. This is great. We also can change 9 Tamadras into a King Tamadra. You can't really fuse them through the latent, or like the awakening slot as a King Tamadra, so I think it's kind of awkward. Maybe one day we'll get that option to do so. We also have now something called useful in the monster box order. Instead of saying special, it's called useful. I guess that's useful. Sure, why not? So those are, like, the main, like, UI or, like, dungeon specific updates. And then we're going to take a look at the new upgrades for existing cards. So many cards are receiving various buffs, which is obviously quite helpful. And for Kalchamar, their base form is now a weapon assist, which is a big surprise when you really think about it. They give you 2 skill bind resists and a combo orb. So that combo orb has been buffed, so we know that's nice. And the active skill gives you vastly reduced damage for 2 turns. I don't know how much that is, but I'm going to say vastly is more than 50% because, you know, that's how this game works. And then you remove orb blocks and change all orbs to fire, wood, and dark. So if you're that respective, if you can use those various colors and you need a shield and you need skill bind resist, it's not a bad thing to have available. I probably will just like get one of these, put them in my inherits folder and just leave it there, and maybe one day I'll utilize it. I don't think it's going to be that feasible to justify using Couchamar as a sub. You get that same active skill. You have to blob 12 or more orbs. Sure, that will trigger combo orb, but I feel like it's just like, this is doing not enough as a sub. There's so many other competitive sub options available, but it is definitely a buff overall. Okay. And then we have we have their awakenings updated in their evolved form. They have now up to 4 skill boosts, lots of rows, a couple of VDPs. This is actually a reasonable sub now overall. I can definitely find justification for bringing this card because at least they have VDP damage, which is helpful. They have more skill boosts. They are already bind immune at least. So like maybe if you need it, this could be arguably helpful, but it's just something there. Amusingly enough, it's got a modest leader skill if you have Super Reincarnate Astaroth on your team, but I don't think it's going to be truly meaningful. For the farmable Valkyrie, nowhere near as strong as the Seal version, but she is a strong healing stick if that's something you do desire, but I don't think that's going to be necessary. In her other form, her X-Dragon Collar form, she has an increased leader skill, which just gives you more health, well, a big health multiplier and a bit more damage. It's just completely irrelevant. It doesn't really do much. Her Super Awakenings can give you 7, 10, 10. So if you are desperate for a hard-hitting card and you don't have other options and you don't care about VDP, maybe you can make those arguments, but I don't think it's going to be that meaningful overall. Farm Balls just are not in a position that they're competitive for the most part. Their weapon assist gained a single other light orb enhance. I don't think that's necessary. I don't use this weapon anywhere at any point in time, so I don't feel like I'm going to really be chasing after it. Super Reincarnate Isis actually received quite a significant buff. Her Awakenings now give 2 instead of 1 skill boost, which is great because 1 skill boost, like what is that in this day and age? This is not 2017, this is 2022. For her active skill, it has been buffed as well. It's now a 3-turn cooldown that gives you a full Awoken Bind clear and slightly reduces damage taken. So the biggest problem with blue teams is that their best cleric is Blue Albrecht, and to get him, you have to beat MD1 and have to get lucky on the 20% chance it does spawn. And that's obviously problematic, so Isis can be a strong alternative. Not the best alternative, but it's a nice, viable alternative because you at least have a full Awoken Bind clear, and if you have cards who do remove Unmatchable as like a secondary alternative effect, it can be a way for you to combine clerics and kind of have a way to have a full cleric to a certain extent. Basically, the idea is that you have someone who is unmatchable, like say Vion, for instance, from Draconic Orchestra. Now you have full Awoken Bind clearing of Isis, you have Vion's unmatchable, you have ways to deal with those mechanics. I think this is meaningful if you didn't have Blue Albrecht, but if you have them, I don't think there's any situation where I'd want to use her over him. For their weapon assist, they now give you an extra second of movement, half second of movement time, and an L Awakening. That is great. That's quite nice awakenings overall when you think about it, because if your given team didn't have an L, this is a meaningful way to give yourself an L. And the active skill gives you a big shield for 1 turn. How much is it? I'm guessing 75%. You fully clear Bind, Awoken Bind, and Unmatchable. So it's a full cleric style active skill with a big shield. One instance where I can see this being used is like Shura 2 for the Ogre floor, because say you didn't have the 600 effective health needed, the shield plus the clearing of binds means that you're going to survive, so that's something interesting there. Or if you just need like a full cleric active skill on top of something. For the most part, I do feel like the Tendra has kind of eclipsed almost every other cleric style active skill, but if you need the shield, you need the L, it could be a possibly meaningful choice. For Amino, they have got their active skill buffed. They remove orb blocks, they give you the board changer of water, light, and hearts. You get 50 times attack for this particular card, and then they change to light for 4 turns. This is pretty weird when you really think about it. So like they only get personal damage for 4 turns, so half the time they have gargantuan personal damage, but you have to be light based, so I think this is kind of weird. So they're just a big skill boost stick. I don't think it's very consistent. I'm a bit more interested in their evolved form, which we'll get to momentarily. Next is Cammy, and Cammy in this form here has the ability to give you enhanced orbs for 3 turns, possibly falling down, and fully recover 30% of your max health. This is not an active skill I find appealing. It's just like she gives you super blind resist and some skill boost, maybe personal damage, but her attack stat is terribly low. For Amino in their other evolved form, I think this form is actually respectable overall. They have modest array of personal damage awakenings, including VDP. They can get another 7 combo, or they can get skill boost plus. So they do modest amounts of damage. The active skill is what I think makes them more appealing, though. They're able to change the whole board to water, light, and dark orbs, which is, I guess, cool. And then you reduce damage for 7 turns on a 7-turn cooldown, which means you have a loopable shield. You are not Halloween Chakiel's strength, but you're actually not a bad card by any means. Like, you're a little lower on utility, but if the killer typings line up, you do meaningful damage, and that permanent shield can definitely be helpful in certain dungeons where you need to make sure you tank large repeated hits over and over again. So it's just nice as another option. Is it going to be used all the time? No, but it's just nice to be aware it exists. And then Cammy in her other form, or Mega Awoken form, she has potentially double 10 combo and double 7 combo. So she deals spectacular amounts of damage, even though her attack stat is one of the lowest you've ever seen, just because her personal damage multiplier is so high. But the biggest problem with this form is it comes with 0 skill boost. Like, who has 0 skill boost in this day and age? Virtually no one. It's going to be difficult to justify bringing her on a given team because no skill boost is pretty hard to work with. Her active skill is pretty useful. You do get an RCV buff, you remove orb blocks, and you get 3 hard orbs from non-dark. So it's not a bad active skill by any means, but the problem is no skill boosts. And like, sure, your super way can get 1 skill boost, but like, come on, like, this is not really that great overall. Like, I feel like if you didn't have anything that needs to transform and you're using a non-transforming team, sure, maybe you can justify using them. And then various other cards have received the super awakening of the big blob combo awakening. So like Christmas Uriel, Saline, and Gremory have received it. So if you are following that blob style approach, you have multiple options for doing so. Super awakenings have been added to various cards. And again, it's that blob awakening for Christmas Celica and XD. So they have been improved. In addition to like those upgrades and whatnot, we have slight changes to Alt Dimension of the Mystics, or MD1, and basically the typing and the gems that will drop from the respective dungeons have been changed. Just read the text accordingly. In the future, we will have the option of running any of these dungeons at any given time. They'll all be available. It's just a matter of hunting for the right gem instead of waiting for the rotation. I think that's going to be more meaningful when that does occur. And then finally, we have a new floor added to Sanctuary of Gods. So if you've been able to clear Valkyrie Seal Descended, Athena Non-Descended, you will have the chance to play Zeus Giga Descended. So, Zeus Giga Descended will give their respective gem drops for Zeus Giga's new evolutions, and using them on the given team will guarantee the gem does drop when you clear the dungeon. So, for their dark form, they have the potential of 5-7 combos, so spectacularly high amounts of personal damage, or 4 skill boost, or another taco. Great options overall. You choose what's dependent on your team. Their active skill lets you pierce through the enemy's damage void and adds +3 combos for 2 turns, removes orb blocks, and changes the top row to dark orbs. For the most part, Yuji Mojito tends to be one of the more dominant mono-dark teams out there, and generally speaking, they're pretty good when it comes to VDP damage, because Mojito is all about the VDP, Yuji does big VDP damage, and depending on your subs, you probably have many ways to get large amounts of VDP damage. So this void damage void may or may not be that helpful for Yuji Mojito teams, but for Mikage teams, if you are playing them and you can manipulate spinners well, this can be meaningful, because just having 3 dark orbs or 3 dark combos is all you need to actually trigger Mikage's leader skill, which is obviously lots of dark orbs. But with this active skill, you don't have to worry about the VDP plus 2 other dark combos to have your damage reduction. You're just comboing naturally. And this definitely, I feel like, will be quite meaningful. And the fact that Zeus Giga will be hitting incredibly hard, double damage capping of relative ease, can make a big difference. So I feel like their dark form has most merits in that instance there. For the weapon assist, you get the same active skill, and you get the rows and the team RCVs. I feel like it definitely has much more merits in their base form. The weapon feels incredibly niche, and you gotta beat the dungeon twice, and then you're giving up the chance of using them in their other forms, and their forms are quite strong. Because for Red Giga, he has the exact same awakening distribution. It's this dark form, but instead you get the red enhanced combo awakening, so obviously red-based teams love this. Seawolf is going to be so happy because this is another multi-7 combo card, so the attack multiplier on Seawolf is higher, the passive damage from multiple red combos is higher, and the active skill does give you the void damage void as well. So Seawolf teams, I feel like, don't always have too much issues with the need to actually have damage void. But again, it makes it easier. Let's say you're running like the Yin Yang Dragon, you have the Zeus Giga, like you've already got 2 subs who do spectacular amounts of damage that are not actually going to have void damage, void potential. It's a way to overcome that. So Hera Luna is another option. Like there are quite a few subs who could benefit from this, but again, if you have like say Pop Red Valkyrie, those are 2 incredibly hard-hitting VDB cards. So again, what you need to bring for a given dungeon will come down to what else is on your given team. For their weapon assist, they have the same awakenings as the Dark form, except they have Fire Rose instead of Dark Rose. So again, I feel like it's just better to have them in their base form potentially. But then again, 3-team RCVs is actually a significant boon to healing. Like, you could probably just push your way through various RCV debuffs, especially if you have like Amino Uzume and Valkyrie Seal in the team with their enhanced heart combo awakenings, and the team RCV stacking on top of that. You could be able to heal through a lot of stuff, which in turn may mean you ignore some mechanics. But then again, Amatsu's Loot kind of does that as well. So I feel like this is a nice weapon, but not necessarily justifiable. And that comes to the end of all the various updates for version 19.8. So with that being said, let me know what you think about this update in the comments down below. Are you excited for what you've seen? And if you have been tackling Zeus Giga's Descend, what team have you found successful? And if it was successful, make a note of it in the comments down below so other players can possibly gain some inspiration. With that being said, hopefully you all have a truly fantastic day. I wish you all the best luck in your own pad adventures, and happy puzzling.